In this video, we'll learn about Spotlight. Obviously, we only cover features that are specific to Spotlight. For the other attributes which are common between lights, you can refer back to the first lesson of this section. So let's create a Spotlight and run the IPR and make sure it is rendering our main camera. And from the camera menu and use camera, enable set active object as camera, and let's position our Spotlight. Now that is okay. Let me increase the exposure to about 1.5. The first spotlight option we have is this cone angle. And if I get out of the camera, as you can see, we have our spotlight and therefore a cone inside which light is being emitted. Let's play around with the numbers here. You can see how changing the cone angle affects your light. Then we have the penumbra angle, which specifies how sharp or soft the edge of the light is. Or in another word, it specifies an area where the light's intensity smoothly falls off to zero at the cone edge. Basically, how soft or sharp the edge of the light is. Let's adjust the exposure and the cone angle to get a fairly nice result. Next, we have aspect ratio. 1 means we have a circular spotlight, and as you decrease this value, you get elliptical cross section, which can be really useful. Drop off controls the intensity of the light at the center of the cone compared to the edges. You can change this value and see the effect. Then we have radius, which is like when we were talking about the size of the area light. By increasing the radius, we are making our shadows softer and more diffuse, and by decreasing it, the shadows would be sharper. And if normalize was unchecked, increasing the radius not only would make the shadows softer, it would also make the light to emit more light, thus increasing the brightness of our scene. In this case, something like 5 centimeter would be nice for the radius. Next one is roundness at 1, which is by default. It gives us a circular spotlight, and by decreasing it, the spotlight would become more and more rectangular. The next parameter is lens radius. To see the effect a bit better, let me just go to the render setting and under environment rollout, add an atmosphere volume shader to the atmosphere field. Now, as you can see in the material manager, a new atmosphere volume shader has been created. I'm going to open it up and increase the intensity to about 0.45 or density, sorry. Now let's make sure the IPR is rendering our active camera and we can get out of the camera in the main scene. Right now, the spotlight is emitted from a single point. By increasing the lens radius, you are basically putting a lens in front of the light, so the light will be emitted through that lens. Let's increase the lens radius, and you can see how it works. And increasing the lens radius would make the light rays to be more parallel. Now let's get back to the camera. Now remember, to increase the quality of the soft edges of your shadows, you need to increase the light samples. The quality of the areas fully covered in shadows, in case we have more than one diffuse ray depths, is controlled by diffuse samples, or more than 0 diffuse ray depth. If we recall, we talked about this cast volumetric shadows option before, but the example was not that good to demonstrate what this option does. Now we have this nice volumetric shadows underneath the chair, and if I disable cast volumetric shadows, you can see this volumetric shadow underneath the chair will disappear. So this will cover Spotlight, and I will see you in the next one.